the fabric of this community is built on everyone, not just those that you think are the owners. The invitation, the constant invitation, is to own this place, so that you have a place that you call home, which is not at home and is not your work. It's the third place. It's the one that allows you to feel like you belong without it either being a given or earning it. You belong because you belong. Because this is your tribe. This is where your people are. This is where you recognize the humanity of yourself and others. Where you look and you hang out with people long enough to investigate who they are as human beings and really get to know them and kind of like actually know someone, because you've been vulnerable and they've been vulnerable back. That's one of the reasons I think why you're here, is that there's a longing in every single person I know is to feel like they belong. They do. It's a privilege to be here, isn't it? I've been thinking about this, the fortunate we are. You know, we have music, and the music is not just music, it's great music, and we have a place, and it's not just... And yesterday we did a memorial for Jackie Park, and the memorial went really well if you weren't there. It was touching and clearly expressive of who she was. And then we went next door, and they had prepared a beautiful spread with a gorgeous table settings and flowers and everything. And I recommend you die so that you see what that's like. And it's just fantastic, and it's that sense of community where people are pitching in, and they're actually not just doing the minimum, they're doing way more than the minimum. That are creating the sense, this context that we have a chance to explore together what it is to be spiritual. And as many of you who meditate know, it is so much easier to meditate when you're with other people who are doing the same thing. The depth can come very quickly to us as we drop into meditation. And that meditation, when you're doing it that way, there is a resonance that happens. It is a multiplier effect of other people. But you can also imagine, if it's true about meditation, it's also true about awakening in all forms. That when you see the good in another person, you're inspired to do that. When you realize that you're part of a community, you tend to act as though you're not, like your stuff matters, what you do matters. Not like you're a tossed off or you're a lone wolf or separate or lonely. You realize that you're in the context of a community, and when you're in the context of a community, what you do is you are generous. You're generous in a way you may not be enticed to be generous if you're just by yourself. You give more graciously, more fully. And this idea of generosity and being in a community is really quite helpful for those of us who are introverts. And I know you. This is a group that has way more introverts than the average population, right? You almost have to be teased into this, come on over here, it's going to be okay. Have you noticed? But once you're in, you go, oh, this feels good. And from there, you can tease someone else to be in the community. And you can be the leader of how you interact with people you don't know. And that process is the process of building community, church. This church is a sacred and beautiful place. It has been here for a long time. We'll celebrate at the end of October our homecoming, which is a chance for us to remember that the reason we have this place is that somebody was generous before you got here. You didn't make this. There's a really good chance you weren't part of the making of this. That you have come in and stood on the shoulders of others' generosity, and so incumbent upon being one of those people who did not make it, who weren't here the first day, and there are very few of you who have been, and we are grateful for that. The way we express gratitude for that is to do it for someone else and to own it I'm speaking a little bit directly about this because I think it's too easy to think, well, I'll come back to it at some point, or it's not important what I do, or my contribution's not so important. I'm just a visitor. I don't really belong here. These are not my people. I know people who come here a lot who don't call it their church. It shocks me. They enjoy the fellowship, they enjoy the food, they enjoy the music, they enjoy everything about it, but they don't go, it's not my church. I go to that. You know how you make it your church? You do something that makes it room for someone else to be here. That's how you make it your church. You give your money, or you give of your time, or you pick up after someone. You do that. You visit somebody in the hospital. You say a prayer for someone. You recognize that the fabric of this community is built on everyone, not just those that you think are the owners. The invitation, the constant invitation is to own this place, so that you have a place that you call home, which is not at home and is not your work. It's the third place. It's the one that allows you to feel like you belong without it either being a given or earning it. You belong because you belong. Because this is your tribe. This is where your people are. This is where you recognize the humanity of yourself and others. Where you look and you hang out with people long enough to investigate who they are as human beings. And really get to know them and kind of like actually know someone. Because you've been vulnerable and they've been vulnerable back to you. That's why you're here. And if you think, that's one of the reasons I think why you're here, is that there's a longing in every single person I know is to feel like they belong. They do. They want to feel that. Many of us, myself included, can parade around like I don't really need that, but when I find it, I just go, oh my God, where else would that be? So I want you to honor that and not dismiss it. You know, in America, where the rugged individualism is so, I heard someone say this, over-indexed. Where it's over-indexed, we can act like it doesn't matter. And we can fool ourselves. And then one day, as I have heard many people say, they just don't feel like they have a place where they are known, where they're loved, where they're special, where they're part of a community, where they belong. They don't feel that. A few weeks ago, I was in California. I was doing a memorial for a friend of mine that died. I was nervous about it because this was the boating community that I had been a part of 50 years ago and had still maintained relationship with those guys, but I had never done anything that is like what I'm doing right now with them. I was never that. I always kept these two worlds completely separate. And they knew what I did for a living, but no one dared talk about it. And one of the things I noticed was talking with these guys, there was a sense that I belonged with these guys. You know, they're the other half of me. You know, there's a half of me that's spiritual, and there's the other side that's a rogue. And I was trying to keep them apart. And some of you who know me well know that I, even in North Carolina, I am a rogue. And it's either endearing or insulting, I'm not sure which to some people, but that bringing the two together was a wonderful experience for me as I conducted this service, and then people went, oh, you know. And that's one of the things I think can happen here, is because most of us have this very tender, sacred ambition, need, longing, however you say it, to see who we really are as the best person that we really could be. And sometimes we are confined by habit or by the things we do on a daily basis that we feel like we must hide those from other people, like I was saying I did. And yet when you finally get to a place where you can say, you know, have you ever thought what happens to you after you die? What have you ever thought about the nature of reality? Do you ever wonder how it is you could be healed from heartbreak and isolation? Do you know those conversations where you say, you know, I didn't have that easy a childhood. As a matter of fact, I don't have it that easy right now. I just need somebody to hear me. I need somebody to love me. It doesn't have to be full body love. I mean, just love me. It would be enough. Because at this moment, I'm fragile. And so you have it here. You have it. If it hasn't fully bloomed yet, you have it here. And I really hope you'll take advantage of it. You know, people's health gets better. Usually when people's health gets better, their attitude gets better. When their attitude gets better, their money gets better. When their money gets better, they breathe deeper. And the cycle continues, the whole of it. The whole of you can be supported by a community that's not even working that hard at it. It's just because we're here. It's just the nature of who we are. And the beautiful thing about the people who happen to come into this place, and I don't know about other places, but I do know this place. The people who come into this place are good people. They may not fulfill every need you have, for sure, but they are good people. And they are safe to be around. And if one person's not safe, there are many more that are. So you can take a chance. Oops, didn't work there. How about that? But that's the nature of it, isn't it? Not everybody fits with everybody else, but collectively, if we stay together, there's plenty. And so I'm really encouraging you to go deep in yourself through your own spiritual practice, but also to spread your energy here. That you might encourage each of us to do more, to go deeper, to feel safer, to feel loved. I think that's really what we're after, isn't it? I mean, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Did you come here just to hear me babble for 20 minutes a week? I don't think so. Okay, I'll do that. So let's do that. Let me allow me to preach at you and allow that to sink in. This is important. And I was at a church. I'll tell you a story. In that way, it's not about you, it's about someplace else. I was at a church in Oregon, and when I got there, there were 40 people, which was the biggest attendance they had had in a year. There were 40 people, and I was fresh out of 5 years of graduate school, and this was my first church. And they were paying me $20,000 a year. And I actually went to somebody who knew about churches, and I said, do you think that's a good salary? He said, well, what was their gross last year? And it was $25,000. He said, I think that's pretty good. So I started there, and the church grew to about 100. And then it tapered off to about 80. And I was there for 3 years, and toward the end of that, I started to say, you know, I'm not going to be here that long. You know, if you, in this little town of yours, and it was a little town, if this little town of yours, I don't know how many people you're going to have that are going to be able to do what I'm doing. And that's not bragging, that's just like simplicity. Not many people with 5 years of graduate school are going to come here to be your private minister, right? And I left. I didn't leave because they didn't show up, but I realized that in a few years the place shut down completely, went out of business. Just shows, this is not about you, but that was about them, but just realize that a place like this is built on your participation. And it will go out of business if you don't, if nobody comes, we'll just shut the doors, right? But if you come, it becomes a place of life and love and experience and a depth and a place where you can play. You can play as a spiritual being. You can play you can dance. We do dances here, right? We actually drink wine and do dances here. Now, how about that for a church? Come on. So I'm going to encourage you not to take it for granted and not to assume that your efforts and your participation is not important. It is so radically wrong to think that. And I'm preaching to the choir, so to speak. Take the choir, for instance. That's a beautiful place to participate, isn't it? To get up and to sing with full-throated love in your heart in such a way that you inspire a room full of people. Come on now. Where are you going to get that? You going to get that down at the drugstore? I don't think so. This is here. This is what you get here. You get to be a prayer chaplain. You get to be a prayer chaplain. Can you imagine? Someone comes to you and says, in the tenderest, deepest, painful moment of their life, I could use a prayer. And it is your privilege to be the one who knows how to answer that request. Can you imagine where else you're going to get that? That you're going to have access directly to someone's tender soul, and you have the salve to put on it? And for those of you who are better at cooking, oh my God, we love to eat. There are a million ways to be of service here. One is just showing up, for sure. Another, of course, is to give money. And if you don't think this place needs money to run on, I'll tell you, just to pay the building. Just to pay the building. $2,800 every Sunday is what it costs for us to hold it open for a week. And the totality of this, we spend $1,500 a day to keep the church running. $1,500 a day. It doesn't happen by itself. And I'm not cheap. Everybody, I really want y'all to consider, I wasn't planning on speaking about this today at all. I was going to talk about chakras. But one thing I have learned to do is let the Spirit guide me to some degree in what I have to say. So let's talk about chakras. Root chakra, survival. Second chakra, desires. Third chakra, egoic desires. Fourth chakra, community, love, and transcendence. Fifth chakra, your ability to speak into being what needs to be done. Sixth chakra, your ability to intuit without being told explicitly. You can know without knowing how you know. Seventh chakra, your second chance to connect with the divinity after your heart. In a place like this, you can start here. You don't have to start down here. You don't have to worry about your survival. You've got it. Check. We're going to have the heat on. Your desires don't have to be front and center, and your need to be powerful doesn't have to be front and center. What can be front and center is your heart. And you can go up from there. And that's a bloody privilege, to be able to come to a place you don't even know anybody, and you can start at the heart. So I recommend you tell all your friends and you bring them here. And you say, this may not be your place, and it's not for everybody, I can tell you. Not everybody wants it like this. Not everybody's ready for it like this. But bring your friends and say, look, I would like you to know what my community feels like. And they may not stick, big deal. But it's a gift to them to go, oh, look at that. When I'm on a busman's holiday, I go to different churches, which is why I happen to know that this is a good one. Bring them here. Let your worlds collide. Let your rogue and your saint come together. Let your other life and this life find a way to touch, so that you become a whole. Not two halves, but a whole, where all of your life works together. You've invited people into your sacred spaces, as you would invite them over to your house to have a meal, or you would speak to them warmly and go to lunch with them at work. Invite them to this place. Because if anything that the world needs now, it needs a place like this where we don't talk politics every day, and we don't ask, what are your qualifications for being likable? We just take you as you are. And we don't ask that you be better than you are, but we hold you up as much as we can. It's a good place to be. And maybe it's not been your experience yet, but I have seen it hundreds of times. So bring your friends, jump in and do stuff when we offer it. Come up with your own stuff and invite people to it. We're going to do a book study, and it's going to start next week. It's going to be on a book on practical metaphysics, which is kind of interesting material, in my opinion. But we're also going to have, because we're doing this book study, what we're doing is inviting people who don't have a subgroup in this church to meet people that they can really develop long and deep relationships. And it's been my experience that these groups come together, and if there's the magic of chemistry, they might last for 15 years. And if they're just an interesting place to have a conversation, if they're just the place where you explore the book and a little bit of food together or something, but it doesn't feel like it's quite your place, it just dissolves and goes away. And so it is like speed dating, and you can get it over with in a hurry. You might find your inner tribe when you go to those. I thoroughly recommend it. I think one of the reasons this church is held together, even during COVID, is we had many of these subgroups that stayed in touch with each other. And when someone gets sick, who are the first people there? It's those people, those neighbors that, in essence, that come together. And they may not live in the same neighborhood, but they certainly act like neighbors. And they take care of you, and you take care of them. And so these book studies is just an incredible avenue into the possibility of community. Don't miss it. Tammy will set you up. There's a lineup out there. It must be 8, is that right? 8 or 10 groups they can sign up for. Find one in your area, or find one that you do by the 6th chakra. That one. Find your place. I encourage you. It's not a waste of time. It's an incredible investigation, both of the spiritual concepts, but friendships. Okay, I think I've talked enough. But this is a place where my heart has opened, where I come here and I feel like it's a privilege to be here. I hope you will feel the same. I hope you will go, oh my God, it seemed nice, but I didn't know I had to get that involved with it or anything. But if you want to have the full experience, do. Find how you can help. Find out how you can give so that you become an owner. And this becomes your third place. Let us pray. As we move into a state of contemplation, let us feel into our own hearts. The beautiful heart that you have essentially come out of as a human being. Your own heart is one of the first things in the embryo that is detectable. The pulse of your own heart. And it draws sustenance from the mother and grows as you grow. And it's how we know you're alive, is you have a pulse. Gandhi said, it's better to contemplate unconditional love than to fill the rice bowls of the beggars. Let's take a moment to contemplate unconditional love. It's more than a person you care a lot about. It's more than any feeling state. Perhaps it will lift you into a transcendent experience. You're beautiful people. Let your light shine. And so it is. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.